I was asked to step in, if you will, pinch hit for a speaker who could not make it. And I truly want you to know it's an honor. It's an honor for me and my long association with the Intertribal Timber Council to be able to address you this morning. I'm not quite as elegant as Principal Chief Hicks. I'm not certainly as Tom Bell. I'm a country boy. And being an old country boy, sometimes I just talk from the heart, you know. And my grandmother always said plain talk is easy to understand. A lot of truth to that. My name is Larry Blythe, and I want to welcome each and every one of you to the 47th Annual National Indian Timber Symposium. This is the third time our tribe has hosted the Intertribal Timber Council Symposium. And it's probably been a good 20 years or so since the last one was held. And I would think that those folks that were here 20 years ago, this is quite a change of venue, quite a change to our ability to offer world-class facilities as we host on behalf of the Eastern Band of Cherokees. I want to thank the Intertribal Timber Council membership for choosing Cherokee. Cherokee is as Tom said, and I just wish I could put it in the words that he did. Cherokee, Eastern Band of Cherokee is a unique land base as a tribal nation. We're actually called the Qualla Boundary. And the Qualla Boundary history comes directly from the removal of our people and how we were able to endure locally, survive locally, reestablish locally, become a political entity within the state of North Carolina. Ultimately, 1924, we were formally recognized by Congress as the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. Our original homelands covered portions of 7 states: Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, on up into West Virginia. Huge area that the Cherokee Nation controlled. Hunted on, fought many skirmishes over to protect hunting grounds, resource areas, salt, different areas. Our homelands covered much of the Tennessee Valley, Tennessee River Valley. And our trade routes crisscrossed, of course, the Cherokee land from Savannah, Georgia, coming up the Unicoi Turnpike all the way up Louisville, Kentucky, anything that got us on the Mississippi River. It was a huge, vast area that our people were able to use. As history would tell it, certainly, and Tom, I'm as guilty as anyone else, as our people talk about the Trail of Tears, the removal of our people 1838, 1839. As Tom said, some of the coldest recorded temperatures in American history. And they chose to move our people in that fall over the winter into 1839. We lost innumerable members of our tribe. I'm going to digress just a minute, just a moment. You know, for the past couple of years, I've been a cyclist. And I say a cyclist, I ride a bicycle, okay? It sounds good. It sounds really good. But there's a lot of truth to it. And as a cyclist, one thing that our tribe and the Cherokee Nation does yearly is that we do a remembrance ride on bicycles from New Echota, Georgia, the last capital of the Cherokee Nation prior to removal, to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, which is the new capital of the Cherokee Nation. And I was fortunate to be chosen, and I was fortunate to be able to attempt the ride and accomplish that ride on a bicycle, retracing the northern route of our removal, one of the 5 routes of the Trail of Tears. Almost 1,000 miles, 21 days. Outstanding, so emotional, so spiritual, so in some ways traumatic for an individual, because you're riding a bicycle, but you're traversing the same land that our people had to walk in some of the most harsh conditions in American history for such an event. It truly brings you back to who you are as a Cherokee person, and how fortunate, with all the events in American history, that we are today able to stand here on the Qualla boundary for the eastern band of Cherokee Indians. So again, I digress pretty bad. I'll get off script if you don't watch me. But I've got a question. How many, just a show of hands, how many are first-time ITC attendees? Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I invite you to take advantage. Please take advantage of the seminars that are offered. Visit the folks that are out front, the vendors, different organizations that are, sponsoring a booth. And so I invited a couple specifically, knowing that Intertribal Council was going to be here this week. So I would ask if Coralie Thomas Hill is in the audience. Coralie, are you here? Way back corner. Okay, so Coralie, and I just mentioned the bike ride. I call it a bike ride. Good Lord, it was an endurance. But Coralie was our coordinator. She was our coordinator for that event. Coralie now is the tribal liaison for Southeast Grasslands Institute, which is involved in research, conservation, and education, grassland restoration. At this point, 24 states are involved. I think they're headquartered out of Louisiana. But I wanted to give Coralie a shout out. Please go by and visit. Visit her booth. And I think it'll be a good network, a good connection that you're going to make there. And a second person I want to introduce is a person I serve on the Tennessee Nature Conservancy Board of Directors. I'm sorry, no, different area, the Tennessee Valley Corridor. And Tennessee Valley Corridor extends up through the Tennessee River Valley, Alabama, to Tennessee, to Kentucky, western North Carolina, with the work they do, a lot of technology. Of course, they're involved with Oak Ridge National Lab. They're involved with Redstone Arsenal. They're involved heavily with the NASA program out of Huntsville, Alabama. And I've just been asked to serve again on that, the board of directors for that operation. I want to introduce, and if you'll stand up, Lonnie Lawson. And Lonnie works for the Center for Rural Development. And the Center for Rural Development is in Somerset, Kentucky, and it provides emergency response training for tribal and rural communities across the nation. And their funding comes from Department of Homeland Security. And the best part, it's free. So please, please try to go by their booth and meet with Lonnie. So again, with a show of hands, how many are first-time visitors to Cherokee? First-time visitors. Oh, wow. Very good. So I know that Chief Hicks spoke earlier about some opportunities. While you're here, we certainly want you to stay as involved in the symposium and the conference and the breakout sessions as possible, but there's a lot to do in Cherokee. And just a few things. I know last night we were at the outdoor drama, Unto These Hills, those that were able to attend for the icebreaker. And so the Oconee Indian Village is in that area. And that's a depiction, a live, if you will, group-led opportunity to see a living museum about our people. And it's just up the way from the drama. And I think if you take your badge and you want to go in, they'll give you a pretty good discount. So if you have maybe an hour extra time, go by. It's a good depiction, and it's good historical reference for our people here in the mountains. The Museum of the Cherokee Indians, of course, downtown. You know, I was going to shout out again to Coralie, but we have what we call Fire Mountain Bike Park, which is located in the same area as we were last night. So if you're into mountain biking, this is world-class opportunity. And if you don't have a bike, my buddies own the rental shop down at the foot of the hill, BCO Rentals Outdoors. And so they have mountain bikes, road bikes as well. Also, if the rain will quit for you golfers, Sequoia National, that's a tribally owned golf course, world class, I'm telling you. It's about 3 miles from here. Trout fishing, of course, the water may be too full and running too fast for good trout fishing, but the Cherokee Island Park, if you have your families, Cherokee Island Park is a great opportunity just to relax, just to enjoy the river and enjoy nature and that sort of thing. And also hiking and waterfalls, just a lot to see and do here. So again, to introduce myself, my name's Larry Blythe. I'm a member of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. I was raised locally, a couple of miles here from the casino. Like a lot of you, grew up hunting, fishing. My grandfather was an outdoorsman, which led me to that opportunity. I went through the local 4-H chapter. And in that, I got involved in a leaf collection, which got my interest going for forestry. How does my granddad know that what that tree is and what it's used for? And he just knew, you know. And so I got an interest in that. I think in my high school yearbook, my goal in life was to become a forest ranger. I had no idea what a forest ranger was. It sounded really good. But with that desire, I suppose, I worked locally for a lady named Lucille Beck. And Lucille Beck was a person that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so as a mentor, I always called her my second mom, but as a mentor, she pushed me to get a further education. She said, "You're too smart to pump gas the rest of your life." I sort of liked it. I was making pretty good money and didn't have a lot of responsibility. But we worked out a deal where I could go to school, come work on the weekends after hours. So I got an AA degree in forest management in 1977, Haywood Community College. And the same year, I got employed with the Cherokee agency here locally, BIA. And again, I had another guy. His name was John Glowin. And John Glowin was the forester for the tribe, or the BIA at that time. And when the opportunity came to apply in 1980 for the forest intern program being offered, he encouraged me to do that. I was taking night classes trying to become a geography major, which is a natural resource, hoping that it would lead me over into to get his job when he retired as a forester. So it's a related field. Anyway, the opportunity came to apply, and I was selected in 1980. One of the first groups of forest interns that were brought on board by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And I attended the University of Idaho. And Idaho's a long way from North Carolina, you know, and not quite the same timber types, you know. But the reasoning behind it was that there was a shortage of Native American foresters. And the Intertribal Timber Council recognized this during their inception in 1976. So I'm a product of the Intertribal Timber Council's vision to create foresters. And so I took advantage of that opportunity. I graduated 1983. So I guess another question, are there any vandals, University of Idaho folks? Yeah, you guys should stand up and be recognized. Yeah, stand up. Come on, come on, come on. So it was a wonderful opportunity for me. I had a family, had children. You know, I got a 2-year degree, but it's darn hard to be able to go to school, get the degree, work a job, raise a family, do all the things that are involved. But the Intertribal Timber Council, in their wisdom, working with the BIA, created the program created the program whereby they relocated me and my family to Moscow, Idaho. I was given a GS-5 salary. My job was to get a degree. And my second job was to pledge 3 years of work for each year of education. And I'm like, that's a no-brainer. Good Lord, I'm going to stay in natural resource management, so it just was a fit. And so I spent 2.5 years at Moscow, got my degree. I came back, and the mentor I told you about, John Glowin, he said, if you get your degree, I will wait until you graduate so they don't plug somebody in ahead of you. I will stay. He could have retired, but I will stay so you get this job. Man, now those are folks that look out for you. And I'm sure in y'all's history, looking back of how you got to this point, there are people that encouraged you, that saw something probably in you that you didn't think was even possible to bring out. And be thankful. Be thankful for those folks if they're still alive. Take time to go back home and thank them personally, you know. So I served as the forest manager here from 83 to 2003, okay? Now, in the meantime, there were other folks that thought I might make a pretty good elected official. I'm not sure there's such a thing as a pretty good elected official, but they're sort of a necessary part of, you know, keeping a society going. And I was elected to tribal council in 1987, and I served until 2003. So my career in both those paths were simultaneous. I was a forest manager for the BIA. I was a council member for the Eastern Band of Cherokees. They're almost diametrically opposed, if you think about it. Because you've got, on one hand, you've got to deal with the trust responsibility of BIA, and on the other hand, you've got to deal with the political side of the tribe who, as we all know, no disrespect to the BIA, I used to work for them, very paternalistic, very unmoving, hard to change the old regimes of the way things have been done. But somehow or other, I was able to walk the tightrope for those many years. 2003, I was elected as vice chief, assistant chief for the Eastern Band of Cherokees. I served with Principal Chief Michelle Hicks for 12 years, 3 terms. And I think during looking back on the history there, we were able to move the needle for the tribe forward in many areas: economic development, education, housing, healthcare, all those things that you do. And again, but 2003, I resigned from the BIA and went cast my lot with the tribe, so to speak. And then in 2017, I was selected as Forester of the Year by the Intertribal Timber Council Board of Directors, and that's prominently on display at my home. So from 1980 till 2017, that's what, 37 years. My life was intertwined with the Intertribal Timber Council directly or indirectly, professionally, socially, spiritually, with the friendships that I was able to be a part of. ITC has often been called a family, and that's true. If you attend each symposium, as they come in the years, and many of you have attended over the years, you know what I'm saying. It's an opportunity to connect to people at a level that's beyond just professional. And those friendships is what I value most of all. When I knew y'all were coming to Cherokee, I'm like, yeah, got to be a part of it. I didn't know what that part would be, but I'm certainly glad to have this opportunity. So I served on the board of directors for the Intertribal Timber Council as a tribes rep from 1989 until 2017, almost 30 years. What an opportunity, Cody, that was to interact with my peers, tribal leaders, on a scale I never thought as a country boy, I'd ever have the opportunity to do. I served as president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. I was considered the resident golf pro. Okay, they're always saying, where's Larry? He's on the golf course. That's not true. I was usually going there on the way home. I wasn't at the golf course all the time. And then certainly I was known as the entertainment manager, okay? So if y'all were at the event last night, it's always was an opportunity for me to play music and interact that way. So I'm going to talk a little about ITC and the connections that I have and have made over time. 1976, Intertribal Timber Council was formed and had several missions or areas. One of them was to encourage the training and development of Indian foresters. And again, I've talked about why that was necessary. I think it was proposed, the forest intern program was proposed by the Intertribal Timber Council somewhere along 1976, 77, and the Bureau decided to fund it. Now, in 1980, when I was selected, I had no idea who the Intertribal Timber Council was. I didn't even know what their responsibilities were or what their influence was on the creation of the forest intern program. But as I said, I saw opportunity to get that degree, which would solidify my career through a means that I had no other way to accomplish. It was just going to be almost impossible. So again, talked about that. So I was selected in 1980, 1981, first semester. And if you've ever been to Moscow, Idaho, in the winter, when you go into Moscow, and I flew in there at night, had no idea what I was getting into. I'd never been there. Flew into Pullman, drove over to, well, I caught a cab or something, I don't recall. And I stayed at a Motel 6. That's all I could afford. Next morning, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in Idaho. Rocky Mountains, Sawtooth Mountains. Believe that or not, you look out the window and all you see is this bare, rolling, Palouse prairie hills, which in their own way are beautiful, very productive. It wasn't my vision of Idaho. I'm like, what in the world has this old boy got into? But there's a song, a song that I relate to that John Denver wrote a song called Rocky Mountain High. And I'd heard that song many, many times. And the first line goes, he was born in the summer of his 27th year, coming home to a place he'd never been before. That summer, Believe it or not, I was 27 years old. And we had summer camp at the University of Idaho in McCall, Idaho. If you've ever been there, beautiful, beautiful area. And we got to visit and camp out on the Snake River, the Salmon River, Hell's Canyon, visited Seven Devils. Now, these are places I'd only heard about. I'd never seen. Now, for an old country boy growing up in these hills, to be able to have that placed in your soul, man, that was powerful stuff, powerful. So I spent 2.5 years at Idaho again, graduated in '83, came home to work, got the job. I got home, no employees. I had no employees. I got home and my boss, John, had retired. I don't know. Everybody that worked for John decided, hey, this might be a good time to retire. I don't know why that was. We had no forest management plan. We had no forest policy statement. We had very high erosion, and we had very low stumpage rates for our natural resources. So I started from scratch, you know. But I had a supportive superintendent. I was working for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Here's a secret, guys. If you want to change public policy, you get the public involved. Certainly, tribal leadership had their ideas on how forest management should go, but the public saw something different, and so did I. The high rates of erosion, the high rates of just unregulated, totally unregulated forest management on our reservation lands. And here we are, one of the most tourism-driven spots in the southeast. But if it would cloud up, the river got muddy. So you got a fishing program, you got an outdoor program of hiking and all these things, but you're killing the very resource that's bringing people to Cherokee. So it was time to make a change. You know, there were efforts underway by ITC to create forest development money, and so through that I was able to hire staff. They were advocating for more fire funding. With that, I was able to hire staff. Certainly, I started attending ITC Symposium, just like many of you are today. And I got to learning about other opportunities. Brought in outside agencies to help me. The U.S. Forest Service, National Park Service. I used North Carolina State Forestry for fire training. Things that we couldn't do because it didn't have money. But they were able to come in with cooperative agreements and help us. Coweta Hydrological Laboratory, one of the best in the nation for looking at erosion control practices. We got BOFARP to fund our first continuous forest inventory. And in 1989, our first forest management plan was created for Eastern Banded Cherokees, and the Tribal Council endorsed it. We came a long way. But I was voted on the ITC board, as I said, in 1989, and I was fortunate to work with leaders who had been visionaries with the 1976 creation of the Intertribal Timber Council. And some of these names may be familiar to you. They sure are in my heart, you know, from my history with ITC. But Joe Dela Cruz, if you didn't know Joe Dela Cruz, then you've missed a true warrior. Joe Dela Cruz walks into a room, and he's almost like he's looking to fight somebody. you know. And usually he wasn't, let's say he wasn't, well, he was. He was pretty tactful in dealing with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, but he was forceful with what he had to say and why he had to say it, his rationale behind it, and expected change. He expected some action to be taken. Don Peasley, Colville. Mike Clements from Warm Springs. George Beauchamp. Gary Morishima, Cornell. George Smith. George Smith, you with us today? He's coming. Some of the originators of ITC. Then as we got on down the line, Fred Matt, many of you knew Fred Delvis, Heath from Warm Springs, Dexter Gill from Navajo, Ray Shin, Al Ketzler from Alaska. You know, and the connections I made with these people helped me. I guess it emboldened me. I saw what they were doing, the passion they had. If you hang out with Joe Dela Cruz, you're going to get some passion, or he'll be on you. Why aren't you? And so I took a lot of that, brought a lot of that back home with me. Tackled issues locally, land use, best practices, wildlife issues, fisheries. And it helped me as an elected official more than I realized. But it helped me to speak with clarity and resolve. To elected leadership in Congress, senators, about the needs of Indian country. And on several occasions, I was asked to testify. Some of the committees on behalf of Indian country for funding needs and forest issues, fire needs. So as you can see, my involvement with ITC runs pretty deep. I was asked to speak about ITC connections. Well, it's about time to talk about ITC connections, I suppose. But one of the things that I have learned, and I think it helps any organization or you as an individual, and it's something I read several years ago, and I still incorporate it where I can. So we talked about vision with the 1976 ITC people. We talked about action. Turn Joe Dela Cruz loose in a room of BIA people. He was either going to get in a fist fight with them or they were going to come to some resolve. They were going to come out there with an action plan. But I've learned this. I have learned that action without a vision is just wasting time. Vision without action, that's only a dream, okay? But vision with action, you can change the world. It may not be the whole world, but it may be the world that you are able to influence at home. And I submit to you the organizers of ITC in 1976 had both the vision and they were prepared to take whatever action was needed to affect change in Indian country forest management. They had a vision of tribal sovereignty being realized in its truest form. They had a vision of tribal leaders and tribal professionals affecting change on their own homelands. They took action took action to establish cooperative agreements to manage across landscapes of our ancestral homelands, to sustain our culture for generations to come. And we're involved in that pretty heavily, ITC and landscape management. They advocated for action, advocating for tribal treaty rights, hunting, fishing, gathering, and that the trust responsibility be fulfilled and honored. And they took action, being on the front end of legislation, supporting natural resource needs, studies, and they opposed legislation that would diminish the tribal sovereignty of us. And the current leadership of ITC is just as passionate, committed to the original visions. And I invite you to read some of their documents, the Vision 2000, also the 2018 ITC Strategic Plan, and then the IFMAT reports that have been published. I think four. You know, our visions have not changed. Some are still not fully realized. But action is underway to keep striving for the completion and success. You know, in closing, the definition I came up with, connection. Connections when two or more people interact with each other and each person feels valued, seen, and heard. I think the originators of ITC saw that that was necessary to move forest management to a new level. Interaction with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, interaction with Congress, senators, to affect change that we see today. And the bedrocks, I would submit this to you, and then I'm going to hush. The bedrocks of ITC connectedness are trust. You got to trust each other when you're discussing something. And we have a proven brand. We're almost 50 years old as an organization. Outstanding. And we have involvement with other boards and with like values. ACES, as an example, Native American Fish and Wildlife Society. We share information. We have proactive communication. We strive to find common ground. And we honor cultures. Wherever ITC goes, that is forefront with the board as they bring symposiums to areas. They want to honor what has come before that tribe. And we appreciate that here with the Eastern Band. Remember, together with vision and action, let's change the world. I want to thank you for being able to relate some of my experiences with Intertribal Timber Council. I've got just a couple of housekeeping things, if I haven't lost my notes. Well, I've lost my notes. So anyway, I think, you know, hey, I didn't write the notes. I wrote my own speech, but I didn't write the notes. So anyway, I think we've got a 30-minute break. We'll be back here at 10:30. I will find the notes for housekeeping, and we'll continue on this morning. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.